When you check into a hotel and you present your ID, do you ever think that you're giving away far more personal information than necessary? The hotel only wants to prove your identity, but now they also know your age, weight, home address, driver's license number, and more. As soon as you hand it over, you lose control. We're often asked to give away too much of our private data. Once it's out of your hands, that information can become susceptible to hacking, the sale of your personal data, or a barrage of unwanted ads. But what if there was an option to verify your personal information without giving away unnecessary, critical, private details? Verifiable credentials, a pillar of Web 5, solves this. There are digital certificates of claims that are easily shared in a private and secure way. They can prove your legal name, age, ownership of an asset, or anything really. Verifiable credentials limit the amount of data you share to only what's required, and they can't be tampered with or faked. Let's reimagine how identification could work. With Web 5, the government issues a verifiable credential that proves your identity and lives in what we call an identity wallet. So now when you check into the hotel, you present the front desk with a verifiable credential and share only what the hotel needs. This establishes that you are who you say you are, without giving away more personal information than you'd like. Verifiable credentials make proving claims easier, more private, and more secure.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Show and Tell, a live stream where the tbD team shows and tells you the latest and greatest open source project or concept at tbD, because we love being open about what we're working on. So during the show, whether you're on LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube, Discord, you can drop your questions in the chat and we will be able to answer them in the later half of our show. So I am your host and moderator, Tanya, and joining us as our guests and speakers for the day is Ethan and Mo. Feel free to quickly introduce yourself and tell us what today's topic is about.
Yeah, I can start us off. So, hey everyone, I'm Ethan. I'm a dev at tbD, and I work primarily on the main star of the show for today, DIDPay. Mo, you want to take it off?
Yep. My name is Mo. I am a Mo-grammer at tbD, leading up DIDPay efforts amongst a couple other things.
Awesome. All right. So before we get started, feel free to post in the chat, where is everybody tuning in from? So I'm hosting from Queens, New York. Curious to see where everybody else is from. Let's see. Boston, Massachusetts, Atlanta, Brazil, another one in Boston, London, Florida. Okay, cool. Another one from London as well. Great to see you all. Okay, so now we can get started with the show and tell portion. So take it away, Ethan.
Yeah, so we can start off with those slides. Perfect. So I'll just do a quick intro into DIDPay. The basic overview basically is going to be the what, the why, and the how. So I'll start off with what. We're going to go straight into what is DIDPay. DIDPay is a work in progress, but it's open source, as we like to do things here at tbD. DIDPay is a reference tbDEX mobile app implementation. It's a way for you to test your PFIs. It's a way for you to visualize tbDEX. It's basically just doing things in the open for everyone. Essentially, it allows developers to test out the whole process of browsing offerings, submitting requests for quotes, viewing quotes, submitting orders, and even viewing your order statuses. So if you're familiar with tbDEX, all of these terms will be somewhat familiar to you, but if you're not familiar with it, you can check out the tbDEX spec. And also, DIDPay is very much plug and play. So you can bring your own PFI DID, and PFI stands for participating financial institution, but you can sort of think about it as a liquidity node or liquidity provider. So bring your own DID, and then from there, you can enter it into DIDPay and really get a visual on the whole user interface for what you think your PFI would look like, or even if you don't know what the PFI is, you can just browse through everything. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the why. Why is DIDPay necessary? Why is it needed? How I like to think about it is the best way to learn anything is to try it. So currently, we have a bunch of docs, a bunch of videos that you can watch and read to just learn more about how we envision the future of decentralized finance. But DIDPay brings along another learning resource that you guys can use to really experience firsthand what native tbDEX applications can look and feel like. So this is just a learning resource for all of you guys. You guys can use it however which way you want. But essentially, this gives you the opportunity to test your own PFIs or PFIs that you know other people are building with a mobile app. So it kind of fosters this open, collaborative manner where you can build and test PFIs. This doesn't have to be the only way you could test PFIs. Obviously, there's test cases, test vectors, whatever. But this gives just a more interesting and fun way for you to look at your PFI and test everything. Next slide, please. Yeah, and then how are we building DIDPay? So we're using Dart and Flutter to build this mobile application. And what that means is that you guys can actually run this yourselves on iOS and Android simulators, or you can plug in your phone, you can run it on your iOS or Android app. And yeah, so DIDPay is totally a reference implementation, and that means that anyone can follow along. There's a QR code here, there's a link at the bottom there. So anyone can follow along. You can contribute however which way you want. You could also feel free to build your own variation of DIDPay. So you could fork it, do whatever you want with it, open source, all up to you guys. And also, we have a great resource, the tbDEX PFI exemplar. That is kind of another plug and play option that will allow you to set up your own local PFI, meaning that you can use in tandem the PFI exemplar and DIDPay. And yeah, you guys can just go ham. All right. And then I think that brings us to the actual show and tell, if you guys are interested. Yeah, so here you have the first page that you'll run into when you start DIDPay yourselves. Essentially, this is the page where you can add your PFIs DID. If you don't have a PFI DID in hand, the tbDEX PFI exemplar is a great place to start. You can get that up and running, use that DID, and just plug and play into here. So I just happen to have this PFIs DID hard-coded into here. But if I add this in, you'll see that the PFI has been added, and now I get full access to DIDPay, essentially allowing me to browse the PFI's offerings and allowing me to just keep track of everything I've done for this PFI. So as you can see, this is the blank page. I have a home page here, the send page, and an account page. We'll start off with this home page. As you can see, since there are no transactions yet for this PFI, activity is empty, but we can get started by adding funds to the account. But before I do that, I'll just quickly overview what we can do here at DIDPay. So there are three main flows. There's a deposit flow. You see a button on the left. There's a withdrawal flow, and there's also a send flow. So I'm going to be walking through kind of how we envision DIDPay could be used in, sort of like a reference sort of way, but just kind of how we envision a tbDEX central app could look like. So we'll start here with the deposit flow. So here is a offering, basically. So this is a legit offering that comes from a fake PFI that we have running in the background. And this offering shows us that you're going to be able to pay US dollars and you're going to get back Mexican pesos. So all this information based on estimated rates, deposit fees, all of that comes straight from the offering that a PFI would give anyone. So this DIDPay app just allows you to visualize, allows you to see everything, it renders it really nice, and you can just work through everything yourself. So let's just say that we want to pay 100 USD, and we would want to deposit 1,634 MXN. You click next. This is where you would enter your payment details. This offering specifically actually doesn't contain any required payment details. So that would mean that this form would, there would be a form that shows if there are required payment details, but since there aren't any here, you can just click next. So this is the RFQ, and then that was the quote coming back. So this quote has come back from the PFI running back in the background, and that quote has now been rendered here, and it's being rendered in a review your payment screen. So here the requested amount is what we entered 2 pages back, 100 USD. This total to the account is actually what the PFI came back to us with in the quote. So this is saying that for 100 USD, the best I can do is offer you 1660.66 MXN. And yeah, you see a little bit more details here being rendered. So it shows you the actual exchange rate that's being used for this calculation. There's a potential deposit fee and service fee, and then there's a total. So now if I click pay, what this will do is it takes the quote that we've gotten back from our PFI, and it'll allow us to submit an order for it and basically start the process on the PFI side for going through all the necessary actions needed to make this real. So if I hit pay, that order has now been sent. And now hopefully you should see, so you should see some order statuses come through. In our PFI, we have a fake state machine going through different order statuses. So slowly but surely, we should be getting different payout order statuses. So right now we're at payout pending. Hopefully soon we'll get some other ones. But in the meantime, what I can do is show you guys, if I click into this transaction, you'll see that we have a transaction details page. So this gives you a little bit more information on what you can do, what you can see in DIDPay. So you can see that this is 100 USD. It was 1660.66 MXN. This is the time that it was created, your local time. And you see we're at payout complete now, and I think there should be, yep, payout success. So that means that this exchange has now closed. It has closed with a value of true, meaning that it's good. And yeah, so that's a complete exchange on tbDEX using DIDPay. So just to recap, that walked us through browsing an offering, sending an RFQ, viewing a quote, submitting that order for that quote, and then all those order statuses you guys just saw. So every single one of these flows, whether it's deposit, withdrawal, or send, is actually going to do the exact same thing. So everything follows this tbDEX exchange. I'll do this the same for withdrawal. Let's say I want to withdraw 100 USD. So this one actually does have payment details to enter because the offering that we're working with has a required payment details for the payouts. So I'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4. Name. Hit next. So that's the RFQ. We're getting the quote back. Boom, we have our quote being rendered. So we request 100 USD to be taken out. This is the same thing. So 16.61 is the exchange rate. And yeah, we're paying 100 USD. So if I click that, order has been confirmed. And then once again, you should see these order statuses start to come in and just show us that this is what out of the box DIDPay can do for you. Obviously, there's a lot that you guys can fix up, change yourselves, but this is obviously a work in progress. The repo will be moving quickly over the course of time, and obviously there'll be new features coming in. But right now, this is what you can do with DIDPay, which I think is super sweet. Payout success, and then we also have the send feature. So this is purely us working in the context of a test app, like a reference implementation. If you think about apps like Cash App, you have send features where you can send money to your friends. We thought it'd be cool to incorporate this as well in DIDPay. So assuming you have, let's say, some account balance in your DIDPay app, let's say I want to send 5 USDC, and then I know the DID of someone else using DIDPay that I want to send money to. I can enter that. And then if I hit send, something like that would be what you would see if you want to send money to them. Purely hypothetical, obviously a test app, reference implementation, work in progress, but this is how we like to do things here at tbD. The last thing I do want to show you guys is the account page here. Where you want to focus your attention is the My PFIs tab here. And this will actually show you all of the DIDs that you have loaded up into DIDPay at this moment. Currently, we are only supporting the use of like one DID at a time for this DIDPay app. But as this is a work in progress, you'll see that we're going to quickly add support for you browsing offerings, submitting RFQs, getting quotes back from multiple PFIs. So that is where you could add this new PFI here. I do think things will break, but progress will be made in the future. So you could always cancel, remove your PFI. But yeah, that's basically what we have in DIDPay at this moment.
Awesome stuff, Ethan. A couple other things to chime in about. During the previous show and tell, we showcased known customer credentials, which are an essential part of tbDEX, primarily acting as a means for a PFI to comply with regulatory requirements. Landing pretty soon in DIDPay, we will end up lacing KCC issuance into a tbDEX exchange flow, which would effectively showcase how a PFI would send an individual through an IDV flow prior to actually providing them with a quote and then facilitating the actual value exchange. So look out for that soon. A couple other things to mention quickly. DIDPay will automatically create a DID for you when you open the app for the first time. We're using DIDDHT. And the private keys associated to that DID are stored directly on device. Similarly, when you are issued a verifiable credential, a known customer credential specifically, from a PFI, that is stored directly on device as well. So you could almost think of DIDPay as a very light version of a self-custodial identity wallet, though that's not really the intended purpose of DIDPay. Yeah, just more so calling out that tbDEX, or DIDPay more specifically, is really highlighting that self-custodial wallets can be built and be used to facilitate exchanges via tbDEX as well.
Great. Thank you for chiming in on that as well. And speaking back to our previous show and tell on KCC, I did see we had some questions and we can start answering them and discussing them from the audience. An earlier question that was already answered of, if I'm a PFI, how do I integrate my server with DIDPay? Is there a field to enter my DID or something? And we showed that right after, where it was under My PFIs. And another follow-up question to that is, assuming your PFI has to be deployed before you can test it with DIDPay. Is that true?
I can take that if you want, Ethan. Nope, it's not. Thankfully, you can test locally. Now, whether you are testing using a simulator or you want to test locally on device is slightly different. But if you go back and look at that recording or the live demo that Ethan did, you'll notice that the did web is actually pointing at localhost. So yeah, effectively we are running a PFI locally, and that's what we are fetching our offerings from. So really it's basically whatever the did you provide is pointing to.
Cool. Great answer. Another follow-up to what we previously mentioned. So can we all quickly explain what KCC is in a sentence for those who didn't attend the KCC session and what
Yep.
it stands for?
Stands for known customer credential, and it is a credential that expresses the result of an individual going through financial institutions IDD flow. It's a long sentence. Apologies.
But that you did it all in one sentence, so awesome job. Another comment from Discord from Gerald: IDV integration for KCC issuance. Mind blown. That's pretty cool.
Hopefully mind blown in a good way.
Yeah, I'd assume in a good way. Any other questions from chat or anything else y'all want to chime in with while they are rolling in? Oh, here's another question from Andre. So, what specific advantages or features of Flutter influence your choice over React Native, for instance?
Yeah, I can take that. So we actually did start building DIDPay on React. We liked it, but we didn't like it enough to the point where we wanted to keep going with it. I think the main reason was because we wanted to test out like all of tbDEX on a mobile app. But specifically, we just wanted to use Flutter just because we do have good resources here within tbD to support us for Flutter development. And also because it is quite quick, and I think we just preferred Flutter over React Native, but it just gave us a lot of reassurance, just the fact that we had resources within tbD to allow us to get jump started on creating DIDPay on Flutter and Dart quickly.
I can chime in a little bit as well, specifically on the React Native side. So we do have, if you browse through our open source orgs repos, we do have an identity wallet, I believe, that's being built using React Native. Specifically on the Flutter side, if my understanding is correct, Flutter definitely is able to target a few more runtimes, namely iOS and Android, just like React Native, but then you also get desktop apps in addition to web apps. So we were able to target more runtimes. Also, I guess, to highlight Ethan's point of view, React Native is an interesting beast, especially when it comes to bundling JavaScript. So we decided to take a whack at DIDPay with Flutter, and we've really thoroughly enjoyed our experience thus far. As a result, we've built the Web5 SDK and tbDEX SDK in Pure Dart, which are both open sourced as well and available for y'all to consume.
Awesome. Another great follow-up question from Ace. Any key things to look out for if building your own wallet to consume PFIs?
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Definitely a loaded question.
There's a lot of things to look out for, especially given that it is early days. You are starting off early, building a wallet that's going to consume tbDEX messages and interact with PFIs. But I will say that the main thing that you got to look out for is just make sure that you're following the tbD exchange process. So going from offerings to RFQs, quotes, orders, order statuses. But the fact that that's all laid out for you, it's detailed in the tbDEX spec, everything is there. You really just got to follow the steps and go through everything and just be able to render everything in the way that you want. So I think this is purely a creative design. You can take things which way you want. How we showed it here in DIDPay is one way to do this. It's a reference implementation. It's how we think it'd be cool if other people consumed PFI offerings and interacted with PFIs in that way. But yeah, I think purely it's all up to the creative mind of whoever's building it.
And to highlight a point, I guess, the constructs of deposit and withdrawal are purely from a DIDPay perspective. tbDEX has no opinion on deposits, sends, withdrawals, etc. They are purely value exchanges. We, I guess, surfaced those concepts specifically in DIDPay because, yeah, we wanted to showcase what you can simulate via tbDEX exchanges.
Awesome. Great answer as always. And another follow-up to that question, seems I can use DIDPay to test my wallet too. So it's great that we were able to answer that. Another question from Douglas on LinkedIn, can DIDPay be used for cross-border payments? And if yes, how many countries?
Yeah, that's a great question, Douglas. So absolutely, DIDPay could be used for cross-border payments. It just depends on what PFIs exist and whether you can meet the requirements that they have from a regulatory perspective, which would surface via KCC issuance. So I guess more specifically, given that this is a reference implementation, we don't expect anybody to actually use DIDPay for financial services. You could use this as a means to see what it would look like to facilitate a cross-border money movement using an app that is powered by tbDEX.
Awesome. Let's see if there are any other questions. I'm sure y'all are thinking of several different things, but anything y'all wanted to add in the meantime? Ethan or Mo?
Nothing that comes to mind immediately. I guess we've gone over a lot.
Yeah. A follow-up from earlier when you asked if it was mind blown in a good way or not, they said yes, and it could be a big enabler for VCs growing in existence and usage. This actually might be a good time to describe what VCs are for anybody who may not know what that is. Whoever
Sure.
would like to define.
Yeah. So verifiable credentials are effectively a credential that is cryptographically verifiable that typically expresses the result of having gone through some process. So a relevant example here would be someone having gone through KYC or IDV the result of that being expressed as something that can be cryptographically verified that effectively says, I guess in plain English, a means to verify that a given PFI attests to the fact that Ethan has been KYC'd by some PFI. It doesn't have to be that like financial services mumbo jumbo. You could also issue verifiable credentials to your friends for being cool if you wanted.
Love that. And that's definitely something I'm interested in as well, and making my own fan club for things I enjoy. I think that's really cool. Another great question on what's the roadmap look like? Anything you can share there?
Yeah, so we do have, obviously this is on GitHub. We have issues there. That is sort of our roadmap as well. So if you follow along on, that link down there, DIDPay, you'll see kind of what we're expecting to work on, what we're trying to work on. There is a lot that's going to be happening this year, so follow along, watch the repo, and just watch magic happen.
Awesome. Now here is a bit of a lengthier question, slightly technical. But essentially, it seems the wallet submits an order but doesn't wait for a response to break out of the UI's main thread while waiting for an order status. Is this flow dependent on the wallet or the PFI implementation? Essentially, I'm asking if the PFI implements the entire settlement flow when it receives an order, or does it freeze the DIDPay app waiting for the request to complete?
Okay, yeah, very technical, but love the question. I'm trying to fully understand the question, but I think this is a flow dependent on the wallet, so dependent on DIDPay. So this is just how DIDPay chose to represent and render this flow. So yeah, once you submit the order, you're sending out a tbDEX message that is an order message that goes to the PFI. And as soon as that happens, what happens in DIDPay is you're in the homepage and you are actually polling that PFIs did on the get exchanges endpoint to look for any exchange updates that have come back in that exchange. So if a PFI has received it and decides to send a payment received order status, that will be added to the exchange, and that is what DIDPay will render and show that little snack bar at the bottom to show that there has been an order status and that your exchange is in progress.
I can chime in a little bit as well. So just to repeat a part of the question, essentially it seems the wallet submits an order but doesn't wait for a response to break out of the UI's main thread. So I guess it really depends on what you mean when you say response, Ace. So like an order is submitted via HTTP request, for which we do wait for a HTTP response to come back, which would be a 202 if the PFI accepted the order. And then like Ethan mentioned, polling for order statuses is a separate request response flow. So the moment we get that 202 back for submitting the order is when you see the page that says order submitted with the check mark. And then it takes you back to the home page, which then starts polling at each individual exchange for looking for new order statuses effectively. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, he said sounds good. So great answer to a very technical question. Before another question, Douglas commented, great framework encapsulating privacy and security by design in app development. Great work. Thank you, Douglas.
Thanks.
Now, another question from Angie. If I remove a PFI, do the VCs issued by that PFI stay in my DIDPay instance?
Angie busting out all of the product questions. Technically, Angie, what's on main does not store any VCs at all. The KCC issuance flow is on a branch at the moment. I'm hoping to actually PR that in later today. And that PR does not include removal of VCs when you remove a PFI. So if that bothers you or anyone when that lands, definitely create a GitHub issue and we will consider. But all that to say, like Ethan mentioned a few times, DIDPay is going to be moving super fast for the rest of the year. So the way in which we store VCs, though that will always be local, including the private keys associated to a DID, the way that storage works, the way that exchange polling works will probably change a number of times as we develop perspectives, change our opinions, etc. So the next time you see DIDPay in a few months, things could be maybe the same or maybe drastically different.
Good note. Another follow-up question. Does DIDPay assist me in choosing which of my VCs satisfy the PFI's requirement? Great question.
Yep, absolutely. So, and this is something that I'm very excited to showcase soon. So DIDPay would effectively leverage the presentation definition inside a tbDEX offering as a filter to iterate through an individual's verifiable credentials to select the right one. If the individual does not have a credential that satisfies the tbDEX offering's requirements, it would immediately automatically kick you into that PFI's KCC issuance flow. So from a user's perspective, the goal is for it to feel seamless, right? But yeah, under the hood, we are leveraging more than 4 open standards to effectively drive that UI.
Awesome. Let's see. I don't think there are any other questions at the moment. Sounds like the right approach. Great.
I agree. Thanks.
And here's another follow-up, right? As I say, if I'm a PFI that doesn't need KCC, can I still use DIDPay to test?
Absolutely, yeah. Your tbDEX, that PFI's tbDEX offering would contain no required claims, in which case DIDPay would just skip the credential requirement check, or rather it would just immediately realize that it fulfilled all the requirements, of which there are none.
Okay. All right. I would say that unless there are any other questions that come up, that just about wraps up the show and tell for the most part. Before we do sign off, though, I wanted to ask y'all, just to reiterate for the audience, where can folks go to contribute or check out DIDPay?
Yeah, so there's the link that will pop up somewhere on the screen here, but we have the DIDPay repo in our tbD open source org. You can follow and watch that repo. You can contribute by either adding issues. You can create your own tickets, create your own PRs. Yeah, just do whatever you want. It's open source. It's for you guys. So everything is yeah, up to you.
Awesome. All right. And then I remembered that there's this as well for the tbDEX PFI exemplar, if you want to check that out as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. And for anybody that missed any portion of this stream, the stream VOD will be available for you to watch on our YouTube right after the stream ends. So don't worry about that. Okay, so we will see everybody later. Bye, y'all.
See ya.